Thank you very much, Malhotra ji, and thanks for the media. As always, GST meeting and post the meeting, the press conferences are normally a time for wait, because we normally come, say one time and come fairly afterwards. That's because of the council sometimes takes a longer time than one can predict. So today, as you all are aware, the council in its last meeting had taken a decision about taxing all the betting, gaming related activities, casinos, horse racing, online games, and therefore in the last meeting when it was all discussed, after 3 full years of the GOM having done its job, it was decided, and I'm just putting it briefly, that all of them or each one of them will be taxed at 28% on face value. Now this meeting's agenda was, having taken that decision, the enabling provisions and amendments that are to be done in the central GST law, post which the respective states will have to do their own, in such a way that sometime after a couple of months we'll be able to implement the decision of the 50th GST Council. So today the meeting had a specific agenda of what are those amendments which have to be made, their language, and to take the view of the council. In that, the discussion went on the agenda, but equally I must say, Minister from Delhi wanted the whole thing reviewed. First, in her intervention, she said this has to be reviewed, this should be sent back to GOM, and particularly on the online gaming. The discussion went on. Then Goa and Sikkim, who have interests in casino, also felt that the decision taken last time does hurt their interests, although they are in favor of a higher taxation, because today what is prevailing there is about 18% on GGR. Now the council's decision in the last 50th meeting was 28% on face value. So Goa felt that they are not against increasing tax, but they wanted it on the GGR, and therefore there was again Goa's appeal. And I wish to mention here that the Honorable Chief Minister of Goa as well, along with the Finance Minister, was present at the meeting, and both of them very, very clearly appealed, saying, please, can there be a relook? So that was another. And the third was, of course, Sikkim, along with Goa, wanted to have a reconsideration on casinos. Then Tamil Nadu minister wanted, because in Tamil Nadu online games are banned, they had an apprehension that if taxing at 28% is coming through, will it make what their ban has been, will it nullify it, will it undermine it, will it dilute it? So he had some apprehensions, and he had written a letter to me earlier today, much before the meeting, saying please make sure that our concern is taken on board, and so on. So all in all, today's decision to amend the CGST and the language which has to be used and the sections where the corrections have to happen have all had a discussion. Even as I said about Delhi, Goa, Sikkim, and that one particular apprehension on online gaming which is banned in Tamil Nadu, there were other ministers who felt that we've already spent too much time discussing this. 3 years is a long time, and that we should implement the decision of the 50th Council, which was taken last time, at the earliest, and not delay it any further. So ministers belong to all very many state governments, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Karnataka, Bihar, said Uttar Pradesh, Himachal, all of them felt the decision taken in the last council meeting for 28% at face value on each one of them should be implemented and implemented at the earliest. So I've named those states which I've mentioned, that Maharashtra, Gujarat also joined in this group of states which wanted this implemented in the very same way as the decision was taken in the 50th Council and implemented sooner. So the presentation went into the details of where the amendments will have to happen, what kind of amendments will have to happen. And it was also put to the House saying, when can we start implementing this? The reason why that had to be asked was because states have to pass their own legislation subsequent to the center. Some of the states, in fact, came out to say, we'll immediately, if said we'll bring an ordinance, but it has to do it now. Some of them said we'll bring an ordinance, but it has to be implemented. So the sum and substance is, of course, there was also this concern saying the decision is not unanimous. Goa, Delhi said the decision is not unanimous. Both Revenue Secretary and I have reminded them that once earlier on a question of lottery, the decision was not unanimous. So yes, whilst the Council's legacy has been on a positive, consensus-based decision-making, there are times, once earlier and now, where the decision is not consensus-based. So this time you have Delhi wanting online to go back to the group of ministers and therefore dissenting. Goa and Sikkim wanted a higher tax, yes, but on the GGR possibly, whilst the Council had taken in the last meeting that it should be on face value. Only with respect to casinos, that is Goa and Sikkim. And therefore, the decision to amend the CGST had these dissenting voices: Delhi on online game, casino for Goa and Sikkim, and Tamil Nadu on online games having been banned. What are your changes going to affect us like? So they wanted a language to be put in saying where the ban has happened, obviously tax cannot be levied. So on that, Revenue Secretary had agreed, saying that he will give a language in the amendment so that Tamil Nadu's ban is taken cognizance of even in the amendments. So that is where today's outcome is. The Secretariat will work together. We'll get a amendment to the CGST taken up at the earliest, hopefully even in this session. And when the question of when to implement it came, 1st October is when it is expected, by which time the states also will pass their amendments to their state laws. And because on the casino, Goa and Sikkim kept appealing, saying we are small states, we need to be given a consideration. Andhra Pradesh FM also said we should have large heart and help out small states. The Council agreed today to come back after 6 months to review the way in which this is getting implemented. When I say 6 months, it's not 6 consecutive months beginning from today. It begins from after when this gets implemented. 6 months of implementation hopefully will give us some inputs, and also we can share our experiences to see how it is going on. So the 6 months was agreed in the sense that we'll come back and review, but 6 months after implementation. So there can be a state which is going to come up with the legislation a bit later in amending ours. Hopefully we want to pass through this session. So there can be different mileposts for different states. We are all hopeful that it gets implemented from 1st October. If it is 1st October when it gets implemented, 6 months from then, the council can review the position. So there is one thing which rightly the Revenue Secretary is reminding me. The valuation of supply of online gaming and supply of actionable claims in casinos. I'll read that again. As regards valuation of supply of online gaming and supply of actionable claims in casinos, the Council recommended that valuation of supply of online gaming and actionable claims in casinos may be done based on the amount. This is the critical line. Valuation of supply of online gaming and actionable claims in casinos may be done based on the amount paid or payable to or deposited with the supplier by or on behalf of the player, excluding the amount entered into games, bets out of winnings of previous games and bets, and not on the total value of each bet placed. Clear?
So basically entry level.
Yes, entry, whatever they pay to get, let's say, the chips, will be the amount, but not on what they pay in each game. So one simple example that I can give you is 1,000 rupees is given, chips are taken, you go into the casino, you pay the first 100 and play. In case you win something, you've got a 300 in your hand, which means net is 1,300. That 300 doesn't get taxed. It is the 1,000 that you get yourselves taxed. Here, at the entry level. 1,000 at the entry. 1,000 meaning whatever is the amount at the entry level. Okay? Now, the other thing which I want to add here, and on which I'm sure Revenue Secretary will highlight, and the CM Meghalaya, I'm indeed very grateful to him, because today his interventions brought in a lot of the experience of the chair of the GOM. I just want to put on record so that you are familiar and all of us are familiar with what actually is prevailing today as a practice and what net it results in. 18%, please do correct, you hear, 18% GGR, which actually net results in 8 to 9% revenue only. Now, I appreciate Goa telling us, I appreciate Sikkim telling us, we are not against the rate going up. So 18% on GGR, which gives me only net 8%. With them saying 18% is okay, but you're increasing to 28, we are not against. Assume today's 18% GGR on GGR becomes 28% on GGR. Even then, we will be collecting only around 11 to 12%. Am I right? 11 to 12%, which is not even the 18%. And 11 to 12%, I'm sorry to say, and the current collection, I'm sorry to say, are even far lesser than the tax that we levy on some of the essential goods for households. This is gaming. You're wagering on it. So on the GGR, the current reality is this. Current reality is 18% GGR, and we are talking approximate numbers. 18% GGR results in net 7 to 8% only of revenue. People are saying, okay, we don't mind 18 going to 28, but let it be on GGR. 18% going to 28% GGR will still only give me 12% and not more. So your original 18% is still not realized. So simpler alternative is 28% on the face value. And the other thing is, into a casino, will the board or will the state GST authorities have enough manpower to stand next to every roulette table and say how many people are betting, how many is won, how many people are redeploying that? There are practical difficulties also, and I'm talking about casino. So with all this in mind, and the collective wisdom of the House, it was decided that we levy 28%, which is at the moment within the GST the highest rate, on face value. So that is the decision today. If there's anything in particular, any questions, Secretary will answer. Unless you have anything in particular for me, I'll take your leave.
We'll take up, Madam has urgent meeting.
Can the Secretary answer that question, please?
Yeah.
Can I be exempted? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Reduce the volume here.
All right, that was Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman relaying decisions that were taken in the 51st GST Council meeting, sticking to the 28% GST levy that was decided in the 50th GST Council meeting on 11th of July. Gaming companies have been waiting for this final decision to come through, and it has come through. Government of India, they're reiterating that 28% GST levy on online gaming platforms will continue. A lot of questions still unanswered. Hopefully we'll get answers to those questions. Joining me at this point in time is Yatish Rajawat, who's a public policy researcher. Also with me in the studio is my colleague Karthik Malhotra. Yatish, I'll come to you first. Your first reaction, sir, to what Nirmala Sitharaman said?
My first reaction is, of course, a sense of relief, because there was such a level of lobbying to bring this duty down from 28% to 18% by the online gaming lobby that I was expecting that they might win in terms of bringing it down. So I'm relieved that the Finance Minister and the GST Council has agreed to kind of continue with the decision that they made in the 50th Council meeting, which is to levy it at face value and levy it on all entities. I think you didn't hear the rest of the press conference, but I think there is a specific amendment that they have made for foreign online games by trying to, I think they're trying to deduct the tax at source, so that one of the so-called fear that the online gaming lobby had put up, that gamers will move from Indian gaming sites to foreign gaming sites, can also be addressed.
All right, GST at face value, and that is of course the big decision. We've been tracking this. We knew that this was coming because this is what GST Council members have been reiterating, Karthik, but it is going to be a big bummer for all the players who've been waiting and watching, hoping that there'll be some relief, if not by the way of a decrease in levy, but maybe by the way of where it's taxed. Will it be taxed at face value or will it be taxed at GGR? A very, lengthy explanation given by the Finance Minister as to why it's important to tax at face value, and that is more feasible way of doing it.
Yeah, so Shweta, I think, no surprise there. I think we were all anticipating that the stay of 28% is likely to continue and it's not going to get reduced. And we were also fairly clear that the tax on face value is what the government is going to tilt in favor of, and that is exactly what Finance Minister has just clarified as well. Now, I think the Minister also stated very articulately that that there was resistance from Delhi Finance Minister Atishi. There was resistance from the states of Goa and Sikkim, primarily on the casino front. And I think the example that Finance Minister gave on how casino chips are going to be taxed pretty much suggests that it is always going to be face value, which means you buy chips worth 1,000 rupees, you are going to pay 28% tax when you buy those chips, not at every table where you go and play, let's say, with 100 chips each. Okay. And then if you happen to win, the example she gave, you pay 100 rupees and you win 300 rupees, then the tax is not going to be on the 1,000 plus the winning of 300, making it 1,300. No, it is going to be on the total amount of transaction you made in procuring those chips the first time. But coming back specifically to online gaming, I think all the concerns that were tabled by the Federation of Online Gamers, by the association, by gaming companies specifically, I think nothing sort of, there to allay their fears or concerns. The efforts that were made, and I think the lobby that we saw was at play to insist on the 51st GST Council to happen practically 21, 22 days after the 50th GST Council meeting happened, suggested that perhaps there was pressure. In between, there was some sort of a double speak, if I may, between METI, MOS, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, as well as Nirmala Sitharaman. They were both, not seeming to agree with each other, where Rajiv Chandrasekhar was seen as if he wants to push with a reduced taxation on online gaming, but that has not come through again. I think 1st October now becomes a clear date. 1st October, according to the FM, is when the GST 28% gets implemented. And I think we have still seen that there has been a little bit of room left for adjustment 6 months later.
Okay.
She said that let's run with this for 6 months and see how it goes, and then perhaps a tinkering or a revision could be underway. And then, of course, there is this clarification of definitions on online gaming, etc., which also we could get to.
Okay.
But Yatish is here as well.
Yatish, I also want to understand, and hoping to play devil's advocate, because we don't have a representation from gaming industry just as yet. So for their sake, they've been constantly pressuring the government, knocking on every possible door, saying that this is going to kill us, it's going to kill our business. One of the arguments that they put forth is that technology cannot be easily contained. In a country where you can easily access illegal websites, you can change your VPN so easily, you can access data that has been blocked essentially, there is nothing preventing gamers to access platforms where they do not have to pay GST, in a sense, subvert the law. Therefore, come up with a regulation that is fair and transparent. A 28% GST levy, calling it a sin tax, is not going to augur well.
So I think we should understand, first of all, what the online gaming, the structure of gaming is, and why it is considered as at the highest level of taxation in the country. One, unlike a casino where you know the chips that have been collected by all the people on the table, you know the amount of the bet, total amount of the value of the bet, because you can see the chips on the table, you can count them. In an online game, you really don't know what the purse is. You really don't know how much is the total bet. One individual player can make multiple bets. Hence, it is very important for the bets to be audited. Now, the bets can only be audited if there is a tax trail. There is no incentive on the gaming platform to audit it. It is against their interest to audit it. Because once you audit it, their total earnings are transparent. The total revenues are also transparent. In a lot of cases, not the full amount of the purse is paid back to the winner. We also don't know whether the winner is genuine or is part of the so-called extended family of the platform itself. Only when you start taxing it at entry level and you start taxing the individual who's putting in the money, would you be able to carry a trail which the auditors will have to certify that what is the total bet made, what is the total value of the purse, what is the tax paid on that purse, and who does the tax, who actually wins the purse. And here everything will get certified, including the KYCs will be done more properly, because you are basically paying GST. So at a face value, your GST will be linked to your PAN card that you have put in. Now, coming to your second part of your question, which says that it could become illegal and it could become there are enough ways to subvert the system. What makes you think that the system is not being subverted today? What makes you think that people who want to play illegal gambling have not been doing it for the last 75 years of our republic? Illegality is never an argument for imposing or not imposing taxation. So the lobbyists basically, brought out an argument which was, ab initio incorrect. Which says that people will turn to it. It's like saying that if you bring an act to ban murder in your country, people will murder people illegally. That's not an argument in law.
Okay, I
One.
mean, it's
Or
a very
in policy.
far-fetched comparison, I must say. Murder to taxes, I think not much of a parlance there, Yatish. But before I let you go, I do have one final question to you, and that is, by the way of, online gaming platforms that are now feeling that they're going to be killed in the wake of this 28% GST at face value. I understand when the ministry or the officials say that we cannot be standing on each betting table and we cannot send a tax inspector there looking at how much every person is earning by the way of their GGR. But at the same time, a 28% GST levy on face value essentially means that a lot of people will be looking at now playing games on platforms which are their main they're not housed in India, they're outside of India, so they are foreign platforms operating in India. But then nothing concrete really that came out of that meeting as to how foreign players, foreign online gaming platforms will be charged. Yatish?
Is this question addressed to me?
It is for you, yes.
So I think the issue was discussed quite, passionately about how foreign players will be taxed and how you can. So we have a banking system, and most people who are part of the banking systems also have linked their PAN and their Aadhaar cards to that banking system. So if you are playing on any online platform, whether it is Indian or foreign, you would, transfer your, you'll buy chips in through your banking system. If you're using cash to buy into the game, then, obviously you cannot be tracked. But if a platform is accepting cash, that itself is illegal in very many ways, So illegality of foreign platforms will continue to happen.
Okay.
To your earlier question that, domestic gaming sites will shut down or they will have this particular taxation will have a,
negative impact,
huge impact on them.
Okay.
The finance minister clarified, I think, very importantly, that it is not going to tax them at even 11 to 12% at the revenue level. So, they are still being taxed much lower than a e-commerce platform or, even a manufacturing company. So.
Right. All right. Okay. Point well taken. Finance Minister, of course, clarified on a lot of issues there. Yatish, thanks very much for joining with your inputs. We will, of course, continue to discuss this story because it has larger repercussions. Karthik, we don't know whether online gaming platforms, we haven't been able to get in touch with them. Hopefully, we'll get them on the show tomorrow to understand what their
maybe in the next few minutes we should be able to get somebody
Absolutely.
on.
What their reaction is to this big sort of announcement. In a sense, it does not allay their fears at all. In fact, their fears have now been proven to be true. They will have to pay up. Doesn't look too good for them.
Absolutely. So, Shweta, I think, in addition to this 28% GST, there is also this double whammy of a 30% TDS on the winnings. So, and that is what I think the concern is right now. If you look at the live comments which are going on, on this discussion that we are having, I think that seems to be the main concern of a lot of people. They're saying that it's double taxation. So, you play with 1,000 rupees, straight away 280 is knocked off as GST. You're left with 720 rupees to play. Now, if you happen to get lucky and win, or if you're really skillful and win, because again, there is no demarcation between a game of chance and a game of skill. So in either situation, if you happen to win, then there is a 30% TDS slapped on your winning. So it is pretty much a double whammy, a 50% plus taxation that we are talking about here. So for the gaming industry, this is definitely bad news. I think, despite whatever Yatish was, the comparisons that Yatish was trying to make and really link it, with other sectors, other industries, it's not really the same thing. I believe there is very little, there's very little that you would be able to do to prevent gamers from spending this money outside of India. Right. Now, you may be in a position to tax at source, when you make that payment to an international platform. But again, I mean, you're re-engineering the whole system. You're trying to figure out whether this payment is going to, let's say, an Amazon.com internationally using a credit card, or is going to, let's say, a games.com or a gaming company, right? So how many IPs are you going to sort of, whitelist for TDS or TCS deduction? How many websites are you, or platforms or apps are you going to be able to monitor? And thereafter, there is likely to be a blanket ban, like we've seen for the right reasons for, let's say, the Chinese apps that were operating in India. But in this case, we could be doing a blanket banning of pretty much any app from any geography that has anything called games in it and has an in-app payments section enabled, or has a payment gateway linked. So overall, I think we are just GST in any case is complex, right? The multiple tax rates and the multiple changes that keep happening to the tax rates. But here we are actually talking about a full-fledged industry which just took birth, did a $10 billion revenue. It's not that, I'm batting for them or something, but the point is, you've got to let the industry flourish. You've got to let the industry sort of, take its natural wings, see what the potential of that industry is, and therein bring in tax reforms or tax requirements which don't kill the industry. I understand that, many would see gaming from the lens of a sin, right? Yes, it has its harms, it has its own addictions, it has its own sort of, other negative ills attached to it. But, one could very well draw the comparison with, let's say, entertainment. How different is it to entertain yourself playing a game versus entertain yourself watching a show on OTT, or entertain yourself watching, let's say, a movie in a movie hall? So if movies are taxed at 18% GST, which is a form of entertainment, why would you tax, let's say, online gaming at 28%? Okay. Now,
let me speak on behalf of the government because this is what many members of the GST Council have been reiterating. A lot of money is being splurged on playing these games, and essentially by people who are very young, perhaps not splurging their own money, but the money that belongs to their parents. And there has to be a way to stop it. While it's easy to monitor if your child is going out every day to watch a movie, it's not easy to monitor if they're making a lot of transaction playing online games, which is, by the way, a reality. A lot of people that we know of in our society, a lot of children below the age of 18 are also investing their parents' money, essentially calling for a need to stop it at source. I don't know how much of this is going to help with that. People who are going to spend are going to spend anyway.
So my point is, Shweta, if the government has, and I hope it has, if the government has got data and analytics and demographics from these gaming platforms to arrive at a fact that, yes, a bulk of the population playing these money games are youngsters, are perhaps not bread earners themselves, I may want to give a little bit of leeway. But casinos, for example, have a rule that if you're under 18, you can't enter.
Under the age of 18 can enter.
So,
absolutely.
So you can't enter if you're under 18. It's fairly unlikely that under 18 or even just about 18 upwards students or youngsters would have enough money of their parents at disposal to them to go and splurge. And if you were to go and splurge also, yeah, sure. I mean, a 28% tax on winning is fine. A 28% tax straight away on the face value. I mean, I understand these are also, these are guarded industry sectors because there's so much randomization. There are so many variables that it is obviously difficult for the government to understand how much a casino is making.
Also, right? It's wagering.
It's wagering, right?
So you are risking that money.
Transactions.
And as a society which has been traditionally conservative, wagering has been banned in many, many states, including the state of Tamil Nadu, which was one of them. Tamil Nadu GST Council member raised a concern saying, betting is already illegal in our state. So what happens in this case scenario? Obviously, they will have nothing to tax.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, again, I'm saying online gaming, I would look at it personally more as a form of entertainment than technically real, money making. But yeah, we are talking about real money games here. We are talking about games that people play with real, money put into the system with the hope of earning more money. So tax it, by all means, tax it, no doubt. But, you know, full face value, reducing the chances of winning for a gamer. A gamer has to win a lot more to offset the tax outgo already, then win excessively high to, you know, to actually make some real killing, and thereafter pay another 30% TDS on that. It pretty much means the government is saying, you know, put an end to this bullshit. We don't need people playing games in our country. We want data to be used in better avenues. We want data to be, we still want people to buy smartphones. We want people to buy laptops. We want people to have internet, but put it to better use and put a full stop on this nonsense called gaming, because we as finance ministers, as chief ministers of states, don't really understand the logic behind real money gaming.
Unfortunate, but true. I'll quickly run through some of the fine prints of what was discussed in that 51st GST Council meeting that just concluded, in fact, a while ago. Before we go back and listen to Finance Minister once again, the Finance Minister, of course, alluded to the fact that they've spent 3 years debating on whether they should be taxing games and what kind of taxation should online gaming, betting, wagering attract. 28% number, the figure, the tax slab was arrived at after 3 years of discussion. Also noting that GST Council member from Delhi, Atishi Malina, wanted the decision to go back to the group of ministers. They quite did not agree on taxing, you know, online gaming at all. So it wasn't a matter of whether 28% or 18%. Delhi did not want online gaming to be taxed at all. Other states like Goa, Sikkim had an issue with casinos and betting being taxed at 28%. They also raised a fundamental question that the decision was not unanimous, upon which the Finance Minister and the Finance Ministry, in fact, apprised the GST Council member that there have been past instances where GST Council did not unanimously decide on a subject matter, but it was passed anyway. All those discussions later, we now know that 28% GST will be levied on online gaming platforms starting 1st of October.
Right. So, I have a question here. I'm not sure if, you know, if you'll be able to answer that, and I wish, you know, we had the Finance Minister live right now. What if today, 2nd of August, right, and up till the 1st of October, 30th of September, I keep putting in money in my wallet.
Interesting.
I keep putting money, let's say I put 10,000, 20,000, 1 lakh, whatever I want to play with for, let's say, the rest of the year. Up until 30th September. The tax comes in on the 1st of October, right?
Okay, that is interesting. We're bypassing the law. We're not telling you here. We were just looking at the possibilities and probabilities, but we're given to understand GST 28% levy on online gaming platforms will be reviewed once again in 6 to 8 months' time. Let's quickly cut back to what Finance Minister had to say. All right, I don't think we have that feed right now, but we'll go back to the key decisions that were taken in that crucial meeting, virtual meeting this evening. Thanks very much for watching.